Hey, good Monday morning, everybody. It's Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here. Let's talk about Hurricane Ida, which is now a tropical storm, and we know the devastation down in southeast Louisiana, but now we got to start focusing on what this does mean for areas further north and east, especially the Western Carolina. So here's the wide view this morning. You could see Ida is a tropical storm right now. It's in southwestern Mississippi. I'm going to put the track on here, and I'll show you kind of the track of this thing. We'll put the forecast cone on here first. In the official forecast there. There's the forecast. You can see it moving off to the north at about 8 miles per hour. Winds are down to 45 miles per hour. It is weakening much quicker now than yesterday because now it's away from that marshy area of southeast Louisiana. But you can see kind of the forecast here is going to take it up to our west and just outside of the Carolinas. But that likely means we're going to see at least some impacts in the mountains. I'll show you the forecast here real quickly from the Hurricane Center. So here was the forecast. I just tweeted this out moments ago and put it on my Facebook page. But you can see it will be a weak system. So we're not looking at a huge wind threat with this system, but it is going to make up for that lack of wind with some heavy rain, especially in Tennessee and maybe the North Carolina mountains. You can see tomorrow most of the mountains in that medium risk, but there's a small section of southwestern North Carolina in the high risk for flash flooding. I'm going to show you some of the rainfall totals here in a minute, but this is the general track that we expect over the next 24 hours. As it moves to the northwest of us, what's going to happen is we could see these bands of heavy rain, not so much impact the Piedmont, but interact with the mountains again. And these areas right here, especially the southwestern facing slopes and the southeastern facing slopes of the southern part of North Carolina. I'm talking about southwestern North Carolina, the southern mountains down towards the Georgia, South Carolina border. That would be the area that would be worried about. So when you zoom in on the mountains, you can see these ridge lines right here and these ridge lines here. This is the escarpment here. That's going to be an issue for some flash flooding. So let me show you real quickly what this could look like. So I'll leave the track up there and I'll show you real quickly basically what's going to be the day one flash flood risk. You can see it there to our west. Let me show you day two. And you could see the areas we're concerned about. This is the medium risk in red and that high to medium risk in the mountains. Charlotte's kind of right on the edge. And then even day three, which is going to be on Wednesday, you can see that risk shifts up into areas. So basically along the track, I mean, look at the track. We'll go back in time. So basically right along the path of that storm is where we're going to see the risk for flash flooding. Now, what about severe weather risk? Well, that's a good thing to look at as well. We'll look at the severe weather risk today. And again, just to the right of the track, you can see the low to medium risk. That's day one. Day two, you could see that most of the Western Carolinas might be in a lower risk for some isolated tornadoes. So in the Charlotte area, probably our biggest issue is not going to be heavy rain, but maybe an isolated storm with some isolated threat. And then that threat shifts off towards the east as we go into Wednesday. So we're not going to see zero impacts, but the impacts will be much lower than, let's say, Fred. So now that we kind of know that, let's go back and look at the future cast. All right, so this is going to be the future radar. So you can see the track of the storm. We'll leave that track on there because you'll notice the remnants as we go through time. We'll go through today. Again, maybe a couple pop-up storms in the mountains, but I don't think much of a deal today. It's going to be super hot and muggy today. We're talking mid-90s. We'll go into tomorrow morning. I'm going to stop this around 8 a.m. So this is 8 a.m. tomorrow. This band in particular, you see this thing right here? That's the band we need to watch, because if that thing sets up like it looks like in the guidance, that's going to be a band that only if it interacts with the mountains bring heavy rain, but that's our tornado risk if it can maintain itself. So we'll go through tomorrow afternoon. And again, not a lot in the Carolinas until tomorrow night. So that band breaks up, but you could see the heavy rain moving into areas of eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina. We'll go through tomorrow night. The rain kind of weakens over us, really. But then we go into early Wednesday, and I'm going to stop this right around 2 a.m. You could see some heavy rain moving to mountains. So I actually think Tuesday night, I would say into Wednesday morning, probably more of an issue. So let's go even further out in the future. So we'll go to our longer range modeling here. And so we'll start at about 2 a.m. on Wednesday morning. Notice the heavy rain. So if you're looking for a time frame for this, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning might be the worst of it. You could see the worst of rain is up to our northwest. But again, what I think the guidance sometimes doesn't take into account is this southeasterly flow wrapping in. And if you look carefully, you can see how it almost looks like stationary storms setting up there on those southeast facing slopes. So as long as the former low pressure of Ida is to our northwest, that's an issue. It's got to get to the northeast. As we go into Wednesday morning, look at that heavy rain. I mean, again, across Charlotte, this might not be that big a deal, but once you get towards the foothills and the mountains, this could be some significant rain. And then you could see it moving off to the east, and this is going into the afternoon where we might see some severe weather. So there is probably a pretty decent chance we're going to at least see some scattered strong storms and some flooding in the mountains. And the wild card here is the tornado risk, any kind of severe weather risk. So we got to keep an eye on this as we go through the next 24 hours, because I really think there's potential we could see at least some strong storms east and then heavy rain in the mountains. So let's talk about some of the flooding risk there. We showed you this briefly, but I'll go in closer and kind of show you this close up. So this is the Weather Prediction Center's heavy rain forecast. So we'll go 48 hours. You could see some of these areas in the mountains and foothills. Let's go 72 hours, which will get us to Thursday. And then we'll go all the way to Friday and into the weekend. So it's really the next couple of days. But you could see these areas we're highlighting. Southeast facing slopes right here with some really heavy rain. That's why you're seeing that flash flood risk. And notice for the Charlotte area, it's like a half an inch to an inch. So the flood threat for the Carolinas is really confined to the mountains, but the severe weather risk is the one area we're going to have to watch carefully for the next 24 hours. And I'll keep an eye on it, but just kind of be extra weather aware, especially Tuesday night and Wednesday. If you're in the mountains, flash flooding has been a big issue, obviously, with Fred. So make sure these phones are charged up and ready to go, because I think flash flood warnings are going to be the biggest risk we're going to see in the mountains. I'll have more updates coming up over the next couple of days as we keep an eye on the remnants of Ida.